zaka 11 zakubadwa. So Warren Buffett started investing at the age of 11, and he stayed, I was wasting my time. So he felt he wasted his time in those 10 years that he didn't invest. Which tells me that you can start investing anytime. You don't have to start work to start investing. Investing for the future starts now. Investing for the future can be started at any point in time. I started investing at the age of about 14 or 15 when I was in Nkolokosa. I had my first savings account at Kuja post office after selling bottles, freezes, toffee, because it was difficult to ask my parents to go to the fair to watch football match. By then, my dad was in Kenya studying for 5 years. Then I started business of selling toffee. Abusa, when they want to watch football and then they want me to pay for that football match, then I would say, guys, get freezers and toffee, get into Nkolokosa and sell. So you can start business anytime. You can start to sell toffee. You can start to sell second-hand clothes. You can start anytime. It says investing is foregoing consumption now in order to have the ability to consume more at a later date. So the reason why people, the moment they get a bit of money and then they buy all those new clothes is because of lack of knowledge. And most of the problems I've noted that I think it's either you want to impress people that don't even care about your life. So you find most of the times, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a VX, I want to buy a Mercedes-Benz, I want to buy a Vitz, I want to buy a motorcycle, or I want to buy a nice shirt, a nice car. All we're trying to do is to impress people. You get promoted. The reason that you've been promoted is not that you should impress people. So you can take advantage of that promotion and start to save even more. But what do? We change our lifestyle. Kungopesa kadora pang'ono tasinthiratu. Timapita ku saluni kundilande tasiya tufuna ntawuni. Timafuna titene, we've changed our lifestyle. So your budget was initially 1 million, or let me put it at 100,000. Now you've got 300,000. It gets to 400,000. Because the other problem you have is psychological, because you think when you are at that level, you even have to spend even more. So sometimes it's blown out of proportion. Kulimira makindi poti andipasaka wa manager ndikwende kwa mavala suti, kumasintha masuti every day kwa mwezi wonse. Pamene si choncho nthawi zinati mangosintha jacket, mangosintha trouser, nthawi zinati ayeka. But because you just want to do it and to demonstrate and to show them, then you go overboard. So when you're investing, you're just laying money for the future. You know, with the increase in life expectancy and the ever-changing society lifestyle, constrained social safety net in our countries. You know, when you're in the UK, you can work up until 70 years for men. For women, they can go up to 67. I know now judges can work up to 70 years. But in Malawi, it's 60 years. But now, people are getting to 80, 90, while they're still alive, while they are only retired at the age of 50. Nde unabanga retire ndi zaka 50, unango yamba ndi kadola kochepa. What are you going to do in the next 30 years? What is it that you've put aside to take care of you in the next 30 years? That's the question. So there's change. In the UK, even if you don't work, there's a safety net. They'll be paying for you. They'll be paying for your accommodation. They'll give you food. The NHS is there. In Malawi, hospital group, They'll tell they don't have Panadols. Meanwhile, you've been working on Mazim, and you've been getting all that medication from all those private doctors. Now, you have to get into these clinics. How do you adjust in the next 30 years? So society has changed, even in Malawi. There was a time in the 90s when HIV/AIDS was really bad. People were dying like chicken, and then our life expectancy was around 37. It's now gone up to over 60 average, and yet when you look at our demographics, most of the people are below the age of 25. It just tells you that people now are living longer. They're having long life. So what is it that you're doing to ensure that even as you grow old, you'll be able to take good care of yourself? Society has changed. In the past, Agakuto Sanchit, you'll just get to the village and people will be giving you chicken. Now you get to the village, audiences each. They are living their lives. Actually, people are the ones that are big. We never used to get food from town to get to the village. Never. But now, that's what we're doing. When we're going home, we have to get ufa, we have to get rice. Why? Because even back home, people are taking care of them. So society has changed. Because the world has become flat, they are also able to see things on Facebook. They are able to watch TVs. They know that why everybody for himself. You need to take care of yourself. So there's no longer, a go gwanga gandi tandiza, munda wa go gwanga, no. So investing for the future is, simply put, setting aside financial resources that will be able to sustain you in this journey of life long after you have retired. So when you leave employment, like now, I left employment before what is called retirement age. It doesn't mean I can't do anything. So I can transition into something that is valuable and that will be able to make money for me. So it doesn't mean I've expired. I can still do a lot of things. So as a family, I'll start with a family unit. It's for your kids, it's investing in their education. They don't have to go to very expensive schools. They just have to go to a good school, and they'll make it. I went to Kachere Primary School. I went to St. Pius Primary School, St. Patrick's Polytechnic. There was nothing. There were times we would go there. I think on several occasions, Sabbath or the Mavala weekend, when we get into town, taking pictures, but during the day, we'd just go to school barefooted. Tinafa, we're here. Here we are. Now we can buy our own shoes. We can choose which shoes we want to buy. So it's not sending your kids to a place where they'll be wearing shoes that will make them do well. So now there's investing for yourself and your family as you grow. So what are the key considerations as you invest? There's an issue of age. There's an issue of your family structure. If you're like me, I've got 3 kids, there isn't much I can do. I can't have one now. I have 3. If you've got 10, there isn't much you can do. You've got 10. Just deal with it. Find a way. There isn't much you can do about it. You made that conscious decision. The other thing that we need to consider is when you're thinking of investing at the skills levels. What are your skills? So, I've retired as a banker. Then Bena now started fishing. Guys. Or, Bena now he wants to stand as an MP. Now is yeah. So when you're thinking of your investment consideration should be, what skills do you have? Or indeed, are you able to upskill? I remember I said last time, this business of saying this one is doing Nandoro. This one, now they are doing decorations. Decorations. Do you know what decorations are? There's a skill. People learn those things. So do you have those skills? The other one is macroeconomic environment and emerging trends. There are some investments you don't do, more especially here in Africa, when elections are about to happen. Because I will tell you what, our economies are so volatile that interest rates can move from 12% to 40% anytime. It just takes one person or one president to decide. When Joyce Banda came into the scene, he came just after Bingu had left. Bingu said, I will not move the currency. When Joyce Banda came, I said, I will move the currency. Some of us had debts, knowing that things are not going to change as long as Bingu is there. We put our trust on that man, and he passed on, unfortunately. In other terms, we call it a black swan, the unexpected that will really shock the economy to its core. And interest rates, we had a loan, our repayment was 700,000. It moved to 4 million kwacha. Just like that. Because the moment the currency was depreciated, inflation went up, interest rates went up. So what happens to you? So you should always be cautious, more especially when you're investing in this country, more especially in our economies. You have to be very cautious. So what investment options are there for you? But even before you look at investment options, you should ask yourself, what future do I want to create for myself? How do I want to look at myself in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years? Like myself, at the age of 75, how do I want to look like? I'll tell you what, I've figured in my mind, I want at the age of 75, at the age of 80, I should still travel and fly on holidays, visit preachers in the US, and come back and go and visit places of I want to visit those places, even at the age of 75. By that time, hopefully my kids will be there elsewhere. I don't want to ask tickets from them. I want to go on my own with my wife without really trying to. So that's what I want. So what is it that I need to put in place? There are several investment options you can take. The first one, I think, if you're still young, is farming. Farming is a very good investment option for you. If you're working, it's a good starting point. So working is a very good starting point for you to invest. So when you're working, you put aside some money, and that money, you put it in an investment account. You can invest on the Malawi Stock Exchange. Because do you know that you can buy even 2 shares, even 5 shares on the Malawi Stock Exchange through stockbrokers. People in Zambia, they buy shares like the way we buy tomatoes here. Maybe tomatoes because you consume. But they buy them like nobody's business. But with 20,000 kwacha, with 50,000 kwacha, you can buy shares on the Malawi Stock Exchange. So if you're working and you're really pushing for your education, as you're young, you invest in your education, you invest in your career, but you should put aside some money for those that are working. Invest in shares. What are shares? Shares are, a share is a portion of the number of shares of a company. For example, NBS shares has got shares amounting to 2,910,000 or thereabout. So if you buy one share, you are a part owner of that bank. what you do, you go to a stockbroker. There are 3 of them. There is a Cedar Capital, there is Continental Capital, and then the stockbrokers. You can go there. You can get all that information on the Malawi Stock Exchange website. You can buy those shares. When you're young, you don't have any pressure for cash. What do? You can just put aside. Ndama inake yongo iwala. Mazoba ndama zina zake. Suma ziwatu unapita ntown kwa mabwira madabo ndama ndiribe. Sunga zoti ka 9 tani ka nampasa ujama ndipempa ujama pempa palimbi pa chekena kumplanta ujama bwana ndampasa kena kuona yapita. That money you can put it aside and buy shares. Shares are not for the rich. You don't have to buy a lot of shares. In this life, in this journey, if you're trying to compete with someone else, you're just wasting your time. If we go to bank competition, how many people are you going to compete with? Then ndimbani ndi uyu. Kena kunza fike uku. Ndekena kunza mvatu kuli Warren Buffett. Kena kunza mva Elon Musk. Zandiga nika atu. Live your life. Put aside some money. The other investment is property. Ndayamba atu msane noti sana ne noti zibanga invest mchani. Ndayamba apo tu. A house that you want to stay in is not an investment. It's a liability. If you're still young, you are better off trading. Okay? Wangwamba mene nchitu. The best is you buy low and you sell high. And then you accumulate some money and you buy shares and you put aside money. The challenge with putting a lot of your money trying to build that beautiful house is that ndama zanu zonse zijazima tera muti mpaka muploti muja kena kumunyumba ija kena kunkumabezi kuti sikuvutadi kena kukukalowamo. So what's that? Staying parent sikuti ndoti mwaluza, suti ndoti moyo wanu wasongonekera. Actually, I've got several friends that go into Dubai and they, instead of buying a house for 200 or 500,000, they prefer to rent at 10,000 a month. They would rather use that 500,000 for business. Doesn't it make sense? Zubanga sense, eh? Yeah. So you've got 200,000. Imagine in your make business, your capital is 500,000 or 100,000. Then 100,000 or 500,000. Then we're going to grab what you can pay. Not my tattoo. You are better off renting a farm on a yearly basis than buying it. So that then you what? You leave it. Wisdom, I want it to sink. Because generally, you know, but today I want this to sink. You are better off renting Malo. I know when it's doing well, what they will do is ano choganipo. But you know this guy who is Chikondi. Chikondi can stop over. He used to have a place just before somewhere around that place. And I just don't know, hey, Chikondi sikuyenda. Anankweza rent ndukuntani ndukuntamangisa. Ati now sayambeka stop over. It didn't work. I'll tell you what. There is a lot of work in building capacity to do something. So the fact that Mwabizi is doing zama showers each other, nani ndiziyambe zama shower ndi kwirabati pompo, because she's done it for a long period of time. Those people that do things and then ningwalanda maroa, or this church is praying here, let's take up this place and then we'll start Nafenso. It doesn't happen that way. Because it's not that place that works, it's people. So it's people. So you may have money, but if your people are not capacitated, it's not easy for them to build anything at all. So, but you know, it's something that we started over 20 years ago. 20 years ago. At that time, it seemed we couldn't believe that the government was lending people money to buy shares at such a price, at such an interest rate, just to buy shares, because the government wanted people to get some shares. So our first one was, I think, NITL, then went into NBS, then we went into FCB, which is First Capital. I'll tell you what, First Capital, if you look at the current value, I was just working it out. I was just sharing it with someone else, and that's a long time ago when they went public. I think we must have made, because that amount of money that we made as profit could have helped us to buy a house in Namiwawa. For the first time, mmadzwali chimwemwe chimatha kudzadza nsaya. Ititi. Amwina simnazo. Timawawa ati kupanga dzadzi ititi. Chimwemwe akamati chimwemwe chadzadza nsaya inu zimachitika. They've been, I think maybe the first one was mwina nditagwira akazanga namva chimwemwe. Then maybe the second time is when I did Sima, because it was so difficult. It was just the two of us. Ititi timawawa iti. Kuwawa literally timakanga tachita dzadzi. Chimwemwe chimadzadza nsaya. The third one, I think, was when we made money, because that money, the money that we made once, just one day, and we borrowed all that money. We borrowed from FCB, 5 million kwacha then. We made 7.5 million kwacha. That amount is now probably around 200 million kwacha. And that's a long time ago. Now, if you come today and say, Bena izama shares in the dingaziambire part, they might, kwa di muntu dangaziambire part. But you know what? You are never late to invest. You can start to invest now. It's about changing your lifestyle. It's about changing the way you look at things. It's about changing some of the habits, which is not easy, I must say. It's very difficult. Ngatunda zolwera watu zivala zovala za puli, you want za puli all the time, puli, then they see investing for the future. But I'll tell you what, each and every passing day, you are getting older. I was once young, and now zaga zatolerana ndipo zikuunjikana every day. Some of the things that I used to do, we used to do timakaratu mabweza miendo mwamba, we can't. Ungapange side kiki basi tukena kuchipatala. Muscle cramp. So some of the things that you are growing, there's some things that you can get away with when you're in your 20s. You will not get away with when you're in your 30s. You will not get away with when you're in your 40s. We're still when you're in your 50s. By that time you have kids. Nowadays, for you to make that decision, you have to invite your wife, a conversation. If you've got small kids, then you have to invite what? If other kids, you have to invite the kids as well. Like my dad used to do. They reached a point when my dad were pushing a lot so that he could buy clothes for us. He said, "Ananga salary meneni mandira nditi ndi samavutisane bamusipa. If a number so it's on it died umamula tukunkanka kwambiri." We are being unfair to him. So if you want to invest in shares, you can start now. Go to the brokers. Building, I'll tell you what, and this is my honest opinion. Building properties, unless you've got a lot of money, most of the times benefits the next generation. Anasira nyumba. Ndi anaja nyumba zijamata kuzigulisa ndikupeza apo yambira pa serious. Mumvetsetse? If you look at our house now, if we are to sell it, if it wera kuti, tibe kolowera kokhala kwathu ndikuti ndikomweko. But our kids, when they grow up and then we are gone to be with the Lord, they can sell that house. And then when they sell that house, akoza kugawana huyu yake aigulisaga 400 million, now it's 125. They're only 20, they'll be probably around 30, 40. That would be a lot of money for them. You get me? So when you're building, make sure that you've got a lot of resources. Or indeed, you've got a business that can really support it. Otherwise, it can also suffocate your business. So if you are a trader, you are continuously trading, and again, also is not nizingo kula nyumba. Unless when you see Indians building those properties, they use them for leverage. Kutati ngere what? Ngongole. They can pledge them as security. So the only way you can make money out of a building or your house, the house that you're staying in, is if you leverage over that house. So in that case, you've got a house. Now you are able to get a loan against that house to do something. Then you are able to make money. Because now it's not that house. Let's be serious. Kugona ba stage, kugona nyumba, nditulo. The second consideration is location. And the third consideration is location. So you can build your house with a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, and you build it in the village, it will be worthless. You take the same building and you just put it in Namiwawa, it's a lot of value. So location is key. Ndemukazona watu ndufurani mange nyumba kwa manje Samara manga ya size ya bo kuti upange graduate, because you have spent a lot of money which you could have spent elsewhere and get more rentals. Kwinako tumvetsetsana kaye musazana mizike kunena kuti when I'm building a house, you know what, enda pesa plot yochipa kwambiri ndeni manga chinyumba chakumtima kwanga. Muono nga ndrama inde chikhadi chakumtima kwanu koma masiku akutani akupita atu siuni mukubwerera mbuyo ndikumwesa toki. Now as you get to where I am now, or indeed when in your 20, between 20 in terms of investment, when you're between 15, because I started when I was 15, when you're between 15 and 30, invest in your education, invest, if you can get some training on sales, try to sell. Buy low, sell high. I remember when I was in college, because I didn't have attachment that time, I wasn't attached anyway. I went to Mchinji where I was staying with my cousin. Napita kuchipata, nakanyamula nsalu zanga zambiri mbiri. Kanga. Paziwa nsalu za kanga? Then I came into town. Ndikuzigulisa napanga dola koopsha. Ndi chinyamata, ene ndikamona wa chinyamata, ango khala busy ndi mwina phone yabwino, malimbana ndi bando, nimamva chisoni, mapempha bando, because you can raise money on your own. You've got the energy. Nthawi ya chimanga chija, you can get into the village, get chimanga, and come here, sell in the morning. You go back. You've got all the energy. Why don't you do that? So, between 15 and 30, muzitamanga. I'm telling you, you've invested in your education, you've got all the energy. You only need to sleep 6 hours or 5 hours. Wachi nyamata? Guys. Kumagona mpaka na masana, nyamata. Uzirota mojani nyamata. So you need to always do something. Kumatamanga. When I was working, I used to do a lot of shares. Then matamangadi. The reason I was doing shares is that shares are an investment for the long term, because they do fluctuate. So you buy them now, and I was able to buy and take advantage of the situation. Let's say I buy, they are just coming, it's IPO, they are cheaper. When you're selling them, would sell at a profit. Like FMB was a magic. I just bought today, we just bought today with my wife, and then 3 days after actually a day after the IPO, we made of a double. Ndukukata mukiratu, moyo kumva kukoma. We felt good. At that point, my wife and I made a choice, a decision that, you know what, going forward, our kids are taken care of. We'll be able to pay school fees for them. Because that time, nobody got 200 million. It was quite a lot of money. So what is it that you can do when you get into 40? So 40, if you're in career, just continue to push. But you need to manage now your expenditure. Because it's either your kids are growing as well, and need to put aside money as well. And then you need to start to acquire real assets. Those real assets will help you as you grow. So now you've got excess capacity. I don't expect you in your zima chitiga koma sizabu no wenigwe zima ngona uchitiga. But yeah, you can still do upanga kandi PhD yako ukutani, but try to put money aside, bit property now that you'll be getting rentals, because you need to get that money on a regular basis. So every month you're getting your rentals. That's what people get when they retire. It's either you're getting dividends. I've talked about shares. The good thing about shares is that when you buy a share, let's say you buy it for 10 kwacha. One, as a part owner, you get what is called dividend, if it's doing very well. And if it's doing even much better, what happens is that the share price increases. So you bought it at 10, you find that the share price moves to 20. It means you've got capital gain. It's unrealized income. Yes. So it's property. So I'll shock you a bit. Do you know that if you've got a property, you've got a piece of land, you buy a piece of land and you put up a property, or indeed you just put a campanda, like a foundation, do you know you will make more money by just selling the land than selling the property? Because that property, if you look at the properties that were there when we were young in Namiwawa, what you do, you just pull them down and put up a new structure, not so? Yeah. So people have bought a piece of land. So if you buy land, even just outside town, you can keep it. It will be something that you can sell after some time. Tumvetse sana, eh? Tukunena tuzama investment options agula hapa. Usanene kuti sinane not investing for the future and jani. Because whether you like it or not, nditu mukula. Nditu ngadambuya kusunge nibe, ngadambuya sabwera nsanga, muzakaramba nditu. When you're in your 50s, I'll tell you what, 60s, don't start something very new. Like Banobo Ndiambe music. Ndiambe DJ, zigwira? Zibanga yonchi? Stick to what you know. Stick to what you know. Ndifaja gandu amayamba munda kukula che state ndinde state. It sounds very beautiful. And then what do? Magasia fetereza omene kucha. Amena namba kulima lango namazo what fetereza suma asira ndo hacha. Amatani amaba ndama kakala pompacha. Iwe I've got an estate kuchambulisa pamene pacha. Oh wow. By Facebook, or like it. Oh, this is inspiration. Hey, this is nice. Hey, this is wow. This is marvelous. Hey, wonderful, blessed. Kena wagasi ya fertilizer. Kena gwadzara soya. Osa dzwati soya chaka chino satani. Saenda. Anza kwa chama kauti nsikana utani. So if there's something that you can do now, start to do it very well. And try to sharpen that skill. If you retire like the way I've done, then maybe you still focus on the things that you used to do. That's building and then the stock market. Because that's what I do. I know. Komati munduone oti ndamba china chake chabaderadera chachilendolendo ndipo ovuta. So when you're in your 50s, when you're in your 60s, then even your energy levels, they amatsika. Ukhoza wapita pa treadmill ndo maziko umatikokera timphamvu tija. But you are not as sharp as the current generation. Above all, now generations have moved quickly. You know, there was what you call Generation X, then Generation what? Y, R5, Generation. So now it's becoming, it's now taking fewer years. The baby boomers, it was years. But after that, now generations are moving. What it tells you now is that iweyo ngatuli ndisaka ngati zaka zangazi, then ndikhale ndi munthu wa zaka 20 tipikisane kuti kamera imayenda bwanji. Even my phone, they will just look at my phone, they will take a nice picture ine ikhala zina zake. Why? It's a total different. Uona photo kamera ichaigwira chonchi umona amaipanga chonchi iwe unangopanga apo tete iwa chama zaipanga chonchi amazaitsitsa uona chonchi. What are they doing? Is they know it. Inuyo, whether you like it or not, my generation apapa adusapo atatu anayi. So just be mindful of the generations that are there, because they know. If I want to do IT, if you're an IT professional, you're hitting your 70s, I mean your 50s, 55, then you should probably be at a very executive level. Don't get involved in trying to program to what? It's a totally different world. Things have moved. So you need to appreciate as you grow, as you invest, to appreciate. So what are the key takeaways? I haven't talked about government bonds. You can also invest in government bonds. So government bonds, I know people when they retire, they say, "Ndikanda pension yanga ndifuna ndikamange nyumba." Amatere, you don't get money ya pension to build a house. Yoga karam, kwina gozi jaja. So when you retire, you get your pension. That pension, put it in government bonds. You'll be assured of interest on a regular basis. To invest sana? Yes. You don't take that money and say to Gambabo Foundation. I mean, you're in the danger, guys. It's dangerful. You don't take all that money and put it in business. You put it business. Ulinzaka 60 now, pension yanga 150. Now, the friend a business. I'm telling you, the success rate is very low. I know I've talked about Mr. Sanders, who started KFC at the age of 65. It's a powerful inspiration. But how many Sanderses are there? He's an exception. Maybe that's why he appears in lots of books, to encourage people that have been late in doing this to try and to push. So when you're growing up in your 60s, please don't get that pension money and start Kundendiambire Foundation. That money is for you. It's like a buffer. You're growing. Kudwala kuma klaso pafupi. Ma BP ama zatani. These are the realities of life. I know tima bempera mnoma. Randa. Ma BP ajama ama kwerabe. Because your body is growing. Okay? You are no longer the same. A friend of mine is 40-something. He used to be a top football player. At 46, he wanted to play with the kids, our youth. Anampwetega mwendo. 7 months, alibajani, chikaka. Why? It's not the time. So when you get that money, you'd rather put it into assets that will give you, an asset that will give you money consistently. So you need to invest in bonds. When you're still young, investing in bonds, which is local registered stocks or in the treasury bills, nimona ngati ndikuchepesa uli ndi mphamvu kuzotamanga nazo. uzisunga ndalama watu usandira interest munthu ndi zaka 25 pali nzeru pamenepo munthu woti ukhoza kugula na ndolo uku kugulitsa uku kupanga ndalama upanga 30% 40%. So but when you retire, bonds, shares are good for you because they will help you. You'll be getting regular income. But as you're young, tamangan, put aside money, buy shares. All of you can buy shares. You can buy shares. Go to these stockbrokers. I've talked about Seda Capital. I've talked about Continental Capital. I've talked about Stockbrokers Malawi Limited. Start to buy shares. Check on the website. The challenge we have in Malawi is we don't want to read. These things are in town. You know what? Stockbrokers Seda Capital. Go to a broker and say, you know what? I've got 50,000. Can I invest in shares? Which shares should I invest in? They will advise you. They're experts in that area. I'll now invite questions. Are there any questions so far? If in your 20s, mkoza wivini kutsala mitengo, a plantation. Mitengo eja after 7 years, uzakaya uda galindini mpamvu, you sell it at a very good profit. It's a big investment. Any questions? Yes, please. Yeah, Funsan. Maybe just a moment, sorry.
Yeah, Nindifuso. For example, ngati zama investment is it? I remember wewe in secondary school, kunkabwera makampani ngata banki ya chani ankali kita expire. Kumatuza kuti mwina mukakula chani, these are the opportunities mene muna muzapanga mukakhala anthu amuna mwina akazi muzapanga ngati zizi. Kuma for example sikunaketi mageza ndi zanga tachoka ku challenge. Amanduza kuti umakuzuwa chani. Those people zaonesese kuti for example ngati mene amapangira ngati economist awa pa mindset change awamera aja nangwayi walazi akachacha anayuza ngati example kuti zaonesesa kuti zimene amakamba zije trials of now today uzaona even on the currency atu even makambira zimene before devaluation yakwaje uzaonesesa kuti even if we follow ma protocols ngati amene ajawa mene amanene andi experience uzapeza kuti sizikugwira uzapeza kuti wezi mapeza kuti wasogoloza akusalira zinthu and you find out kuti mene mukunenera ngati niwe ma agent manje kama ma brokers chanchani you find out kuti you got ma brokers imo ukapanga even after 20 years down the line uzapeza kuti zinthu zipeza kusalira apeza ndamanduza kuti for example ngati mene mukupangira mwet mapezeka zoti there are some other things zoti ananduza kuti sometimes zaonesesa ngati anthu amene aja kuti they are successful business people ngati normally azoti munachita retire before retirement age usapezekezana nanduza zoti there are some anthu ngati amene aja uzaonesesa zoti amathoma kamba zimene zijazi mwapali zinthu zina zake zimene amafuna zoti anthu asaziwa amabisa therefore bange verified because even anthu amaese taonapo even anthu akuese even matenga even ma loan ku bank even malandidwa katundu wona kuti even work out yake makhala 0%.
Ndimwere mazi. I think, I think there's one notion that I always say to people. Nobody should ever tell you that employment is bad. Eddie? You start from there. And you can even retire. And you get consultancy jobs. It's part of growing up. You know what I mean? So we can't all have the same paths. Tonsefe mene bambanga nwakumbukira akakwia kwambire akakwia my dad used to say iwo unapanga izi bwanji amanati mene timasiana na nkhope ndi mene timasiana na kuganizadi kuti unafika po ganiza motere I think anthu ife tikamasiana nkhope ndi kuganiza timatanidi timasiana. There's a reason why anthu ife tili osiyana nkhope. We can't have the same path. So maybe what And with all due respect, Henry is a very good friend of mine. I think most of the things that he shared are very good things. They're very nice things. They're very important things. And I'm sure to some people it has worked. The truth about invest risky. Life is about taking risks. Be it farming. Ukoza kumlima bwino bwino ona nchembere za ndonda. Zatani? Beba nitule nditsiku la International Women's Day. Kwa chifukwa chani amapereka zinthu zoyipa kumaujeni mainazi ati nchembere za ndonda. Uona zaja. Uona locust. Umva cyclone Fred. Wakusongonezera. Does it mean farming is bad? No. Maybe you just got into that environment at the wrong time. When you read a book on the psychology of money, the psychology of money will tell you that during the Great Depression, nobody would have shared to you that investing on the stock exchange is good. Because the stock exchange just crashed. People lost millions. People were left destitute. People were depressed.